we look at the way, for example, look at the Fed, we had the Bernanke Fed and the Greenspan Fed, where they were dominant characters within the Fed, and they held a lot more sway than perhaps Yellen does. And I think the difference perhaps now is there's more decision by committee. Of course, MPC is a committee anyway, but it does seem as if the head of the central bank is less influential than they have been in the past. So I'm not sure that's the case. I think what's more important from our perspective, we look at the Fed, for instance, we're going to see 3 notable hawks leave the Fed into the next year, and therefore we might even see a slightly more dovish composition of the Fed going into next year. So yes, of course, the uncertainty from central bank heads leaving is important. I think this is why we see Mark Carney say he's going to stick around until after the after the completion of the UK Brexit, and I think that's very important. I mean, clearly that's going to perhaps allay some of the uncertainty.
Are you surprised he's staying, or he's decided to stay, given the flack that he's taken on Brexit?
Yeah, I mean, of course, he has been under criticism, and it's interesting now the government seems to be toning that down and saying they weren't actually criticising him at all, and but the reality is he has, and any central bank head is not going to be particularly welcoming to that sort of criticism. But so look, I mean, I think he's done the right thing here, but certainly sticking around one more year and moving and sticking around while that adjustment takes place and until after Brexit, I think is going to be very, very important in terms of keeping stability, confidence, and it's the right thing to do. So I think it will bode very well for him.
Is the sterling, though, a long-term short?
Well, I think at these levels, it's still very, very cheap. It's actually below our forecast. So, I mean, we can't say it's a long-term short. But I would argue, look, there's still going to be a lot of uncertainty. The numbers so far in the UK, we had that Q3 number look pretty good, actually, which might at least dampen any expectation of Bank of England easing anytime soon. But, I think ultimately at this level, it is cheap. But does that mean it's going to recover anytime in the near term? No. I think it's going to take some time before we see any real recovery in sterling, until we see a little bit more of the uncertainty over the political process, discussions with the EU start to unfold, and then we'll see some sort of recovery, perhaps. But I think now it's a cheap currency.